It is time for the Inside Edge Hockey News Radio Show. Your home for National Hockey League news, information, and opinions. It is an exciting and often controversial approach to the great game of hockey. Get ready for breakdowns of current hockey topics. It's a no-holds-barred approach to happenings throughout the hockey world. And now, your host from Inside Edge Hockey News, Brad Burud.
Welcome to the Inside Edge Hockey News Radio Show. I'm Brad Burud, the host of the show each week. It's episode 9, the first of season 2, and season 2 is going to bring a lot of new and big changes for the radio show. We'll be doing recording every 2 weeks, usually. Each show is going to be a discussion. I'm going to talk about a topic each of the shows, and then we're also going to have an interview from somebody in the hockey world, whether it be a media member, a player, another blog poster, someone in the hockey media world that'll make it really entertaining. Some great interviews. We got a really good one tonight. We're also going to be doing a poll or question from a listener each week. We'll either run a poll during the week, discuss the results of that, or we'll have a fan question, and those are always fun. Always fun to see the input from the listeners, and we really encourage that all year. Tweet us at Inside Edge Hockey. Fire over a message on Facebook to me. I want discussion with hockey fans. I love hockey. I love talking hockey, and that's why we're here. We like to discuss it. So thanks for listening to the radio show. We hope it's entertaining for you each and every week. A big thank you to our sponsor, Hockey Community. You know, if you're a hockey player and you're looking for a place to find places to play hockey, Hockey Community is a place to go. It's a social network for hockey fans. You can find out where pickup hockey is in your community, find a tournament, find goalies. It's got it all. It's a great website. Check it out. That's hockeycommunity.com. We thank them for their sponsorship. We couldn't do it without them. We hope you enjoy this week's show, and it's going to get underway right now.
Hockey Community, a social media website dedicated just for hockey. It's a one-stop shop in searching for games, players, stick and puck, tournaments, and yes, goalies.
All right, we're to the point of the show where I start giving my predictions. Every year I've been with Inside Edge Hockey News and putting that together, I've come up with 10 crazy predictions to start the year. I've had some actually pretty decent success considering I'd call them crazy. Sat down this week, went through this year's 10 crazy predictions, and some of them will make you shake your head. Some of them you might agree with me on. We'll break it down. I'll roll through all 10 of them. We'll go fairly fast here, but there's some interesting stuff, and we'll see how many right I get this year. Hopefully I have as good of a year as I did last year, and let's start it off right away with a couple defensemen that I think are going to have really good years this year, and that's Ivan Provorov of the Philadelphia Flyers and Seth Jones. I think both of these will continue to move up the defensive ranks, and both will solidify themselves as top 10 demon in the league, and maybe even move into that top 5. I really like what Seth Jones brings to the table. I know he just went down with an injury here in the last couple days, but he's going to bounce back from that and continue to grow and be a solid D-man in the National Hockey League. We'll go right into number 2 real quick, and that's the New York Islanders. They are going to shock everybody and make the Stanley Cup playoffs. I made this prediction on the Debate Hockey podcast a couple weeks ago, and my co-host Blake Friars laughed me off of the show, and everybody thinks I'm crazy on this one, but I think they're going to realize just how much they miss that old Nassau Coliseum. They're going to win a lot of games out there, and they're going to get back into the playoffs. Now, I don't think they'll go far, but they got young talent that's going to produce. Matthew Barzal is going to produce big numbers this year, and I think that this Islander team is just going to squeak into the playoffs. Moving on, number 3. The National Hockey League will see its longest suspension in history this year. Well, maybe not history. A very long 20-game suspension this year. And the crazy part of that prediction, it will not be Brad Marchand. Even though he is public enemy number 1 in the National Hockey League, I just got a feeling we're going to see someone overstep the bounds this year and do something really silly. And I think player safety is going to have to step in, be really strong on him, and set the tone for the future of the National Hockey League before things get too wild and crazy. Number 4. This one's easy. I think everybody's going to just laugh at me, and this one doesn't fall into the crazy, but it is a little bit. But age and speed will even be more important this year. We're going to see young talent just stepping it up a notch. Dylan Dubé in Calgary looks good. Elias Pettersson in Vancouver looks good. Boy, do we have some young talent. There's just young stars, and they're putting up points. And, second-year guys like Besser and Barzell, and boy, we're a younger, faster league. Teams like Anaheim, teams like LA are going to really struggle with this speed. Number 5, Devan Dubnyk, Semyon Varlamov will not be starters at Christmas. I won't have a lot of people argue with the Varlamov part, but maybe I'll get some heat on the Dubnyk one. I think the Dubnyk is going to struggle. I've always thought that he's been protected in Minnesota with good defense, and I think they're going to have a little bit more troubles this year than they have in the years past. Dubnyk will be exposed, and he's going to have a struggle. Number 6, Elias Pettersson of the Vancouver Canucks will follow in Brock Besser's Calder's success last year. Besser wasn't able to pull that award home because of an injury, but you know what? Pettersson will. He is for real. This kid is everything. I'm not making a prediction. He's going to be in charge of the power play. He's going to get tons of ice time, and this kid is dynamic, and he's going to score a lot of points this year. Number 7. This one's for your Leafs fans. Just to make things hard when you're trying to get Nylander signed, Mitch Marner will lead the Toronto Maple Leafs in scoring this year. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, I don't know how you're going to fit Nylander in when you've got Tavares, Matthews, and Marner. All are going to be hefty paychecks. Marner's the real deal. This kid's going to run this show. He's going to nose for the net. He's going to put in points this year. Number 8, Alex DeBrincat of Chicago Blackhawks and Alex Tuch of the Vegas Golden Knights will solidify themselves as NHL household names. DeBrincat is for real, and Alex Tuch, I was so impressed with him in the latter part of the season last year and definitely in the playoffs. He'll continue that success in Vegas, and those are two guys that are going to be household names. Number 9. Things will not go smoothly for the coaching transition in Washington. Todd Reirden will struggle to get over this over-celebrated team back on track. He's going to struggle to get these guys going. I just feel that Washington's going to have a little bit of a hiccup, especially earlier in the year, and they're going to have a hard time getting that back on track. They will make the playoffs. They just will not win that division. Number 10, and my final one, Claude Giroux and Taylor Hall will take marginal steps back this year in points and success. Giroux, I don't know how you can continue that pace, and Hall, so maybe that's not as bold. They both will fall back. Hall will stay up there. Giroux will fall even further back. He's just not as consistent. Even though he put up the big numbers last year and proved me wrong, I see a fall back from him. Crazy predictions. I love doing them every year. They're always fun to do. I rolled through them fast tonight. If you've got any comments, tweet me at Inside Edge Hockey. Send us a Facebook message. Argue these with me. Tell me your crazy predictions. I want to hear them. Email me your crazy predictions. Tweet me your crazy predictions. I love to hear them. I love to read them. You know what? They're only crazy. That's part of the fun of it. Make them as crazy as you can. You know what? They do come true sometimes, and it's a lot of fun to make those predictions. Enjoy this week's hockey action. We're just 6 days away from the drop of the puck. It's my favorite time of year. Every team has high hopes. Everybody thinks they can win the Stanley Cup. And boy, is it going to be fun to sit back and watch hockey every night.
InsideEdgeHockeyNews.com. NHL news for NHL fans.
This week's interview on the show is fantasy hockey guru Chris Wassel. We apologize for the bad connection we had. Chris has some great fantasy advice here and has 5 great fantasy predictions. Joining us now is Chris Wassel. He does a lot of different fantasy hockey stuff, and you're staff writer for the Sporting News, senior columnist at Dobber Hockey, and all kinds of different things in the fantasy hockey world. Chris, glad to have you with us, and tell us a little bit more what you do in the fantasy, and then we'll jump into some crazy predictions.
Absolutely. I am a fantasy hockey idiot savant, if you will. I survived the days of the old-fashioned way of chugging yoo-hoos and going through box scores in a newspaper. and actually adding numbers up manually to basically now where almost everything feels like it's data and number driven. So for those, one tip for everybody, for those in the industry that say you cannot adapt, absolutely wrong. You can do it. I do a lot of things with numbers and visualizations from guys like Sean Tierney and Bill Como, who do unbelievable. I mean, there's so many people in the industry that do great work with charts and advanced stats that I spend this whole time here just talking about it. But now what we do with that information is different than most. I do have a heavy following on Twitter because I do answer everyone's questions. I will sit there up 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Somebody has a question, I will answer. This is simply out of the fact that I know what it's like not to get the advice when you need it. And wow, I mean, it's an empty feeling when you're asking questions and they cannot give you an answer. So if I don't have an answer, I will find it if it kills me. And that is probably something that separates me from most fantasy analysis out there, period.
With all the fantasy leagues getting going and all the drafts, I know I've had quite a few. I had to take you up on that advice this year because there's been a few times in my life, just back and forth on a guy or whatever. But it's good that you do take the time to help out all your listeners and fans. Well,
absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about this season, and we talked a little bit before the show about crazy preseason predictions for the year. And what do you got this year for your 5 crazy predictions?
This is fun. I like to do this every year. I did it with Keeping Carlson last month. And usually what was nice is they would come back and check on me, not just to see if I was criminally sane during the season with some of the more outrageous ones. But all right, the first and foremost one, and this is nuts. Matthew Barzal will come damn close to averaging a point a game still this year. Do not worry, Barzal owners. I know John Tavares left the Islanders high and dry, but Barzal is going to be okay. If he can give the New York Rangers nightmares in and out in a preseason game where it doesn't matter, imagine what he does when it does matter. Do you expect a dip early on as far as point production? Absolutely. But come the second half, when the games don't matter as much for the Islanders, watch the points go up. Because literally he's going to be the entire show on Long Island / Brooklyn. That's the first one. That's an easy one. The key is, bro, you have to go easy at first before we get crazier. I mean, you start crazy and then you just go glomo, thermonuclear insanity. And don't worry, we have a few of those.
I like Barzal too. I think he is going to have a good year. I agree with you on that one. And the Islanders might be okay without Tavares. They got a lot of young talent to help Barzal, and I expect his points to be high too.
That defense has to find a way to show up somehow. Sure. If Barry Trotz can work magic with that, I'll not just bow at his presence, but I'll probably have to kiss his feet in Brooklyn, because I'll be eating a lot of my words as far as the team's prediction itself. So we'll see what happens.
So what do you got for your second crazy prediction?
Yeah, second craziest one. Oh, this was fun. Here you go. People like this. Alex DeBrincat will lead the Chicago Blackhawks in goals scored this year. People keep thinking that Patrick Kane, off a subpar 28 goal season, is just going to bounce back and score 40 this year. He may not be the guy that comes close to 40. It may actually be DeBrincat, who's looked really good in preseason. And let's face it, he has a nose for the net, which is something at times Patrick Kane forgets.
I'm glad you said that because I picked him in one of my drafts last week, and I trust your advice on that, and I think that would be a good pick.
Yeah, it's something else. I mean, I watched him last year, and I got to see him a couple times. Once in Brooklyn and once obviously in New Jersey. The infamous game where Corey Crawford started having his really bad vertigo / concussion symptoms. And the one thing that stuck out from that game was watching not his speed, but the way he moves without the puck. And the shot is nice too. Obviously, he has 2 or 3 different shots in his shot repertoire that I like in particular. Well, obviously, his snapshot is something that he just has a nice quick release, which low stick side often beats the goalie. Shooting inside out, and he excels at that rather well.
So we got Barzell for crazy prediction 1, and we got DeBrincat for number 2. What
2.
Number 3, Chris?
Number 3, crazy prediction. Henrik Lundqvist requests to be traded at the trade deadline.
After what we
like I said,
last year, I would say no, but I have a hard time believing that he's going to be patient enough to deal with what I think the New York Rangers are going to bring to the table this year.
I think the Rangers will be a little bit better off than most expect at first. Their schedule does help a little bit. But again, as the regular season goes on, that patience is going to wear thin. Now, they may not trade him. Remember, he just has to ask to be traded. It doesn't mean they're actually going to do it, or actually going to find a suitor for him because of, again, salary, years left on deal,
and age.
He's 37. I mean, look, goalies can turn back the clock. Once upon a time, Martin Brodeur was two games and a really bad call away from winning a Stanley Cup at 40. But look, Brodeur in those years was a lot more subpar than Lundqvist was. We joked that he was kind of conserving himself, but who knows? That's an argument for another time. But the bottom line is with Lundqvist demands perfection. And you just don't see that with the Rangers right now as a whole. And even with himself at times. And that frustration, when you have that kind of persona, that frustration eats at you no matter what. It's the mental aspect of the game that so many overlook. And that's why for fantasy, I basically told people, I won't even think about drafting Lundqvist unless it's in a league for saves. Because I know he's going to face 35 to 40 shots a night.
That's a good point. He definitely
that's the only time you look at him is if you're in a league that's desperate, that has a heavy saves emphasis, and say you only have 3 or 4 goalie categories, then you consider it. But if you get a little fancy and you see 6 or 7, forget it. It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough go in New York, and when you're a veteran like he is, and I definitely see where you're coming from in that prediction. So we got Barzell, Trinket, Lundqvist, and what's number 4, Chris?
Number 4. This is where it gets interesting. God, I hope I'm wrong with this, but it's looking likely. San Jose, no, that's not crazy enough. Wait a minute. No, we can't do that. You have to go crazier here because you're going up the chart. You're getting to like 4 and 5. You have to expect the unexpected. Okay, here we go. Jeff Skinner winds up with more goals than Eric Stahl this season.
Skinner's in a good place.
Skinner's in a good place. And remember, Eric Stahl is not going to regress that much off of the 40-goal season he had. I know a lot of people are saying that he's going to drop to like 20-something. He scored 42 goals without a healthy Nino Niederreiter last year. And Michael Granlund was considerably off his game in the second half. Minnesota's problem won't be offense. It's probably going to be defense at times, as far as their depth pairings and such, and their depth forwards, who are literally just a walking nightmare. But goal scoring, not that much. Skinner, on the other hand, look, Skinner was so poorly utilized by Bill Peters in Carolina, I was surprised he wasn't traded sooner. And he's going to be playing with Jack Eichel. It's pretty good. He hasn't had a goal-scoring sniper on his side in, well, and I mean a good one, in ever. That first line, that depends on how long they keep this together, Brad. If they keep Reinhart, Eichel, and Skinner together, that's a fun first line. That's a lot of points.
I think you're onto something. I think Buffalo's going to move up this year, and they're going to make some noise.
They're going to make some noise. They probably still finish fifth in the Atlantic, but wow, they're going to be fun to watch.
They are,
I'm looking forward to it.
It'll definitely be a good building year for them, and they're a team that's probably 2 years away from the playoffs. Okay, yeah. Last one, final one. This is going to be a crazy one, I got a feeling.
The craziest one I could possibly come up with. You will not only drop Carey Price in your fantasy hockey leagues, but Montreal may actually finish worse than Ottawa this year in the standings. And this is from a fantasy hockey standpoint. Montreal will have less 20 goal scorers than Ottawa. Now, of course, this depends on a few guys and if they're traded or not. But as the teams are constructed right now, Montreal basically has one, maybe two 20 goal scorers right now. Basically, yeah. Gallagher and Byron, and that's it. That's all you have. And Gallagher had 260 something shots last year. He shoots a ton, but again, like a lot of players on Montreal can't hit the ball, can't put the puck in the net. Drouin could come close. I think Drouin winds up with like 18 or 19 goals. He has a lot more assists now. But again, Ottawa has got has Stone. They still have Zingle who could Ryan Zingle who could score 25. He was in the low 20s last year. He could be in the mid to upper 20s this year, and I wouldn't be shocked. He's going to get top line ice time no matter what. So you're looking at guys like him. Somebody else from Ottawa will wind up with 20 goals magically because they can't do much of anything else. They can't play defense. The defense is, it's on a level that basically it reminds me of the old early 90s San Jose Sharks teams where they couldn't defend anything.
Yeah,
it'd be on that kind of almost like an expansion team type of defense. And that's I'll do even one better. I'll throw in a sixth crazy one just for fun.
All right, what do you got?
Okay. By the end of the year, Eric Brandstrom right now was sent down in the minors from Vegas, will be on the big club and will be seeing top 4 time as a defenseman.
Yeah, that's bold.
It's bold enough. Brandstrom looked really good in the preseason. He did not look out of place. This has been one year in particular that I've noticed at least a lot of these prospects, Brad, have come in and looked very good. I mean, obviously, Elias Peterson's going to make the team out of camp in Vancouver. Yep. Just very I can never pronounce his name, no matter how many. It's there from Montreal. Clemmy. it's a rough one. It's like it's
gonna take us a year
feels
to
like
get used to. Coconut.
yeah, that one's kind of like the if you ever listen to the beginning of Bob O'Reilly sped up a little bit, that's like how it is pronouncing some of these European names sometimes. No matter how hard you hear it in your head, you know how to say it, and it's just like you go to say it, and it's like blah, 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 and it just comes out all wrong. But there's Michael Rasmussen, even from Detroit, probably is going to make the team out of camp and could score 20 goals for them. Detroit's another sneaky team where they may not do well from a defensive standpoint, and they're going to take their lumps, but they have some offensive pieces for fantasy. Anthony Mantha could score around 25 goals again without a problem, and he is a bit more of a mean streak this year that I've noticed, so that bodes well. The kind of players that you're going to be finding very late in your draft that people are going to sleep on just because they're on not so good teams. And that's where the value is this year that there wasn't in previous years. Scoring is up overall. So in a fantasy league, if you're looking for scoring, you can find talent in areas that you could not find it, say, 3-4 years ago.
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely. It seems like it's the sport scoring has been more spread out a little bit, and with these new prospects that have been exciting in the preseason, it's going to make some drafts interesting to see who reaches out and snakes some of those young players.
Yeah, we were up to nearly 3 goals a game last year across the board in the league. I know it doesn't sound like much compared to the 80s where it felt like it was like 4 goals a game, but it's something.
It's a noticeable difference, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the power play opportunities were up not all that much, but it was better than the previous 4 or 5 seasons where literally you saw 3 of the lowest ever totals for power play chances per contest. So again, the refs called a few more penalties. Okay, maybe call it a little bit better than what they have at times. It's a fair and accurate statement. You sit there and you look at some of the home and road totals for certain teams, and you just go, "Huh?" But it's again work in progress. There's great fantasy value this year that there hasn't been in previous years, and it's a good time to get into fantasy hockey now, especially with all these prospects that seem to be just coming out of nowhere.
Well, it's sure exciting. We're about 6 days away from the drop of the puck. We really appreciate you joining us, and I love your price prediction. That's a good one, and I really appreciate you taking the time to visit with us and give us some insight on some fantasy hockey, and maybe we can check back mid-season and get some more fantasy updates.
Absolutely. That's the fun. That's the fun part and all. Hey, at some point we have to see what the heck we did right and wrong, and somebody has to take out the ruler and whack us for some of the ones that we were just sitting there going, "Oh, what were you thinking?" So it's fair. You have to face your punishment at some point and face some of the praise that you may inevitably stumble onto.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this the start of the season Wednesday night. And again, thank you for joining us, and thanks for the great insight.
Thank you very much, as always.
Inside Edge Hockey News, bringing you inside the game.
It's time for the question and answer portion of the show, and since it is the first episode of the season, don't have a listener question tonight. Please watch in Twitter. Follow us at Inside Edge Hockey News. Tweet us at Inside Edge Hockey, and be involved. We want your questions. We'll answer them on the show. I'll give you my insight. You might like it, you might not. And I want that back and forth amongst the listeners. And tonight we're going to do a couple polls with the season just getting started and all the anticipation of how teams are going to do. We thought we'd do a couple prediction polls, and then I got a real interesting Twitter poll that kind of went back to what we talked about all summer. So let's start with the Facebook polls, and I'll read what the question was, and I'll give you a little rundown on what the fan input was. The question was, which of last year's surprise teams will have the most success again this year? And boy, did I get a lot of responses on this one. I got great feedback from the fans. Some interesting results. 47% of the fans think Vegas will be the team that was the surprise last year, that will continue that success and continue to have a great season. And you know what, when you think about that, I think Vegas definitely is capable of it. I kind of have them falling back a little bit to reality this year. I think they rode that high last year. Boy, they were amazing. They proved me wrong so many times. They made me feel like I was so dumb when it comes to hockey. But I'll tell you what, this team has got some depth. They've got good goaltending. They've got a good core nucleus of players. And you know what really was their key last year? Was their hard work. This team works extremely, extremely hard, and boy, did it pay off for them last year. And, you know, I don't disagree. I got 47% of the people were in favor of the Knights, and I picked them to have a fallback year, but I'm probably going to get proven wrong by the Golden Knights because they happened to do it all year last year to me. The second team was the Colorado Avalanche. People think that the Colorado Avalanche, 33% of the people who filled out the poll thought that Colorado would be a team that holds their own again this year. It has another really good year, and it'll be interesting to see how Colorado does. I worry a little bit in that. I don't think Varlamov is the key there, and I think we'll find that out earlier as Grubauer will take a stranglehold. And I'm really happy. Colorado did a great job of going out and get him. I think that was critical. They saw a weakness last year, and they acted on it right away. So kudos to them, and you know, maybe they will have a better year. I just don't know that McKinnon and those guys can keep up with that wonderful pace that they had last year, and they caught a lot of teams by surprise maybe last year. But you know, you never know. They might have a chance to keep that going. Another team that had we're getting down there now in the percentages, but the New Jersey Devils had a great season last year, and the people taking the poll put them at 15%, think they're going to continue that this year. And I also have them stepping back again this year. I think there's a lot of teams that'll shuffle in the East, and I think the Devils will fall back a little bit. I question whether Taylor Hall, as much as I think he's a great hockey player and an NHL superstar, I wonder that he'll be able to keep that pace up and keep that scoring touch going all season like he did last year. The number 4 slot came in at the Los Angeles Kings. 5% thought that they could move up and continue that surprise and the success that they had last year. You know, big signing in the offseason with Ilya Kovalchuk coming back. Now, I just don't know, and I have my questions. I don't think that's a great signing. I think Kovalchuk will come back and be a good hockey player. I just don't think he's going to be that speedy hockey player that left the National Hockey League. He's older, and you don't get faster as you get older. So we'll see how he translates this year. And my biggest thing on Los Angeles is that their core group is getting old. And I do not think that Dustin Brown will have a great season. I don't think Kopitar will have as good of a season. I think he's going to be a good, consistent force for them. But I question whether he can run at the pace he ran last year. You know, Jeff Carter, you know, will he be healthy? You have those question marks with age. And that's not a knock on those players, but with age, that stuff comes. And you really got to wonder how that'll all play out. A couple of write-ins. I had Toronto, which I thought Toronto finished pretty good last year. They're somewhat of a surprise last year. I thought they were going to be maybe... I wouldn't know if I question whether they were a surprise last year, but because they were projected to be a fairly good hockey team last year, but this year really a lot better. Another one right in that we had was Philadelphia, and I definitely agree with that. Philadelphia did shock a lot of people last year, and I thought they had a really good year, and I look for them to have a really good year again this year. I think that's a growing team. They're well coached with Dave Hackstall, and I think that's a team that is going to be on the rise. Let's move on to Facebook poll number 2. And this is a similar question to the poll 1, but a little bit different. And it was, which one of last year's failures will be the biggest rebound this year? So basically what that means is what team that struggled last year will bounce back and have the biggest uptick this year. Boy, lots of different teams. This one, everybody thinks their team's going to do good this year, but there was one team that stood out the most, and I have to agree with it. And I've gotten a lot of arguments from people because I think this, but I think the Edmonton Oilers are going to be on the right track this year. I think things are going to be good in Edmonton. I think Connor McDavid's going to keep the points going. I think Leon Draisaitl is going to be amazing this year. Puljujärvi will be good. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins will emerge again as a quality center. And 46% of the pollers think that the Edmonton Oilers are going to be that team that moves up this year. I have to agree on that one. The next one is the Dallas Stars. I do think the Dallas Stars will move up this year. I don't know that they're going to move up a ton, but I think they're going to be a better team this year. 17% of the people in the poll thought the Dallas Stars would be moving up and really having a surprise year this year. The next one, Chicago Blackhawks, 11%. Now, I completely disagree. I think with Crawford being injured, there's so many question marks. DeBrincat's going to be great, but boy, they just lack so much depth. And those salaries of Taves and Kane are really starting to affect them now. And I completely disagree with this 11%, but who knows? Maybe I'll get proven wrong. Another team at 11%, the Calgary Flames. And I really agree with this one. I love their depth. They had one of the best off seasons of any team in the National Hockey League. The big question in Calgary is goaltending. If their goaltending and Mike Smith can have a good year, stay healthy, and do good, then I really think that Calgary will move up. They could even win the Pacific. That Pacific division is all over the map. There is so much opportunity for teams there. Calgary could win that. I think Vegas could win that. San Jose is definitely a favorite up in that. And Edmonton, who knows with them? I think they're going to be on the rise. Those four teams, to me, are going to be good hockey teams this year, and any one of those four could win that Pacific. 11% of the pollsters think the Flames are going to rebound this year and have a big year. Now it drops down a bit. 10% had the Montreal Canadiens. Completely disagree. The team is in disarray. I think those are Montreal Canadian fans that are just winging and living on a prayer there, but I don't see where you could justify how you think Montreal is going to move up. I think they're going to be down where they were last year and stay there. Two teams that had 3% of the pollsters. One of them I think is going to stay down, and that's the Detroit Red Wings. I don't think it's going to take a few years. They're going to have good drafts, and they're going to have to build on that and continue to keep going. And I think they can, but I think it's going to be a little time with Detroit. Buffalo is another one that had 3%. Now, I think Buffalo is going to be a good hockey team this year. I like some of their changes. I like some of the things they did. And I think Buffalo is going to be one of those teams that we're going to see some good advancement in. And I look for good things out of that young hockey team. I worry a little bit about the coaching, and I'm not trying to get after Housley, but I just wonder a little bit on how he's going to do with I don't know. I question how that's going to go. But Phil Housley's, but when you got Eichel and you got, some of the moves they made, I love that they brought Skinner in and all that. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that one all goes. And now I had a Twitter poll that we did later in the week, and it was a poll that I questioned whether I wanted to talk about it again, to be honest with you, because it was filled our summer, man. It was Tavares and Karlsson. That's all we talked about all summer, and I got kind of tired of it. But now that it's done and both guys are in a home, let's talk a little bit about it. And my question was, who will have the bigger impact on their new team, Karlsson or Tavares? And I think both teams are really poised to have great years and both are going to be really good. I just wonder, who's going to have that breakout. And I kind of think Tavares will, and I lean there because I think Toronto's going to be a good hockey team this year, but I kind of lean the Tavares route. The poll was a little different. 68% of the pollsters had Karlsson making the bigger impact, and 32% had Tavares. I guess we're going to see on that one. I would go the other way. I think Tavares is going to have a better year and have a bigger impact. But boy, two big stars change places. Gave us something to talk about all summer. I am a little tired of it. I don't want to talk anymore about it. But let's see. It's going to be fun to watch them on the ice as the season gets underway.
Inside Edge Hockey News on social media. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Google+. Get connected.
Zaitsev's wrist shot deflected right on, they score! Willie Nylander ties the game! Seconds after the DeBrusque goal!
listening to this episode of the Inside Edge Hockey News Radio Show. A big thanks goes out to our sponsors, Hockey Community. Check out InsideEdgeHockeyNews.com for all your hockey news, and follow us on all forms of social media. Tweet us your questions and comments at Inside Edge Hockey, and most importantly, download the Inside Edge Hockey News Radio Show on your favorite podcatcher. We are on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, iHeart, YouTube, and Spotify. Thank you for listening and enjoy this week's hockey action.
Boy, are these guys fun to watch.
Hello, he was flat.
Wow. That's a statement.
Another heartbreak in Boston for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Tired of calling or texting around looking for players for your hockey games? Upset that no one seems to respond to your email or even Facebook invites? Yeah, pretty frustrating, right? Lucky for you, there's Hockey Community, a social media website dedicated just for hockey. It's a one-stop shop in searching for games, players, stick and puck, tournaments, and yes, goalies. But there's more. As soon as you sign up, you will see every game and player updates within 50 kilometers of your location. Thanks to our innovative technology, rinks and leagues can connect their schedules to our site, and we'll show you what's happening around. Whether you want ice, roller, street hockey, or even floorball, you can connect with the sport anywhere you go and right from your pocket. Check out hockey-community.com now to see more.
Thanks for listening to the Inside Edge Hockey News Radio Show. We hope you'll pass along our website address, InsideEdgeHockeyNews.com, to your friends and colleagues. Check out the radio show archive on our website for previous radio shows. The website also features numerous articles, videos, and blog posts. This has been an Inside Edge Hockey News production. Join us next time for another entertaining edition of the Inside Edge Hockey News Radio Show.
This has been a production of Inside Edge Hockey News Radio, copyrighted and distributed by the Inside Edge Hockey Media Group.